I don't know if you heard, but political commentator Charlie Kirk was assassinated the other day. It's sad, for anybody to be assassinated or lose their life, even if you don't agree with that person. Me personally, I disagreed with a lot of things that Charlie said vehemently, but that doesn't mean I feel like he should die for it. Yeah, I'm a big freedom of speech guy, but I take it to an extreme. I feel like anybody should say anything. That's part of being America. That's what makes our country great, even if you don't agree with them, especially if you don't agree with them, because you don't want to just live in an echo chamber. You don't want to be in a world where everybody's just a yes man. If your ideas have merit, they should stand up to scrutiny. They should stand up to challenge, but not that kind of challenge. Like ideas and words can't stand up to bullets, right? I don't think him or anyone else should be assassinated for what they said, man. I just think it's a really awful thing. What I don't like is people picking sides saying, oh, it's the left's fault. I'm not political at all. I'm not left wing or right wing. I'm actually right down the center. I'm the kind of person that they try to convince to vote for him. Because if you left wing, you're going to vote left. If you're right wing, you're going to vote left. Everybody's fighting for my vote. For me, I want to listen to both sides, even people I don't agree with. And because I listen to both sides, I really believe that most people really believe they're doing the right thing. Most people are not out here trying to hurt other people deliberately. Most people, of course, you have your psychos and your crazies, but most normal people, they believe that they're doing right. And typically, most of us want the same thing, It's just different versions of it. And we're all in the same struggle. We do ourselves a disservice when we really demonize the other side and assume malice and act like that one side has a monopoly on truth or one side has a monopoly on honor. I really believe that's like weakness. Like a strong person can actually listen to someone else's opposing ideas and stress test it. You don't get stronger by surrounding yourself by yes men. You don't get stronger by refusing to hear what another person has to say. And I really believe when you physically attack your enemy because you disagree with them, that's when you become the monster. It makes you a tyrant, just in a different uniform. And that goes for both sides. Truth is not found in blind loyalty to one side or another. Truth is usually found somewhere in the middle of opposing viewpoints. It's in that tension, in that uncomfortable middle grounds where both sides potentially grow. History typically moves in the right direction. If you think 50 years ago, some people thought that black people and white people should be able to go to the same schools and drink out the same water fountains. Some people didn't think so. Out of that came the right decision where, I can drink out the same water fountain as one of my white homies, right? Society usually bends in the right direction, but it comes from that compromise. It works best when we work together, as opposed to demonizing the other side. If you're left, then you got to understand that half the country doesn't agree with you. And if you're right, you want to understand that half the country doesn't agree with you. I'm sure there's some truth in both arguments. And if we can find that middle ground, that's where progress is made. And I say that as somebody who vehemently disagreed with the majority of what I heard from Charlie Kirk when he said that Martin Luther King was an awful man. I ain't agree with that, but I don't think he should be shot over it, When he said that black fathers are the number one driver of black inequality in America, the lack of black fathers. I vehemently disagree with that. And the actual studies disagree with that too. Here's a study from the CDC showing that black fathers are actually more involved in their kids' lives than any other race. We led the top as far as involvement with our children, eating meals with our children, taking our children to activities, and actual time spent with children. According to the actual studies, we led all races, but that didn't fall in line with the narrative he was trying to portray. I don't think he should have died over it though, right? I disagreed with Charlie when he said if somebody forced themselves on his daughter, he would force her to have the kid. I disagree with that. I'd make a different decision under those circumstances, but I don't think he should have died over it, I got friends who I disagree with a lot of what they say, but we're still friends. I can still listen to him, try to see his point of view, see what I can take good from him. Like Myron, I disagree with at least 50 to 60% of the shit that comes out of Myron's mouth, right? But that's my boy. That's my dog in real life. I talk to Myron, even though I vehemently disagree with a lot of stuff he says. But there's a certain segment of the population, when they hear someone disagree with their thoughts, they want to hurt that person. And I don't think that's where progress is made. You know, when I see the pictures of Charlie's family and shit, I get really sad, especially he had young kids and he was only 31. That's relatively young, you know? Y'all know my story. I lost my father. And so that shit kind of hits home, you know? And it's like, fuck, man, at the end of the day, he was just saying words. And it's to the point where I saw this coming, not saying he deserved it, not saying he should, but I saw this coming, not necessarily with him, but just in general. It's like, it's a lot of creators who got famous, or like figures who got famous and got really big being controversial, because the more controversial you get, the more the algorithm loves it. The algorithm loves extremists. So the more extreme you could be, the more you're gonna be rewarded by the algorithm. Yeah, if you ever wonder why I never talk about my political views, this was a good example. You know, I would just urge all of us, man, to really go out of our ways to have compassion for him, even if you disagree with him. Again, I vehemently disagree with majority of the things he said, right? But you don't want to celebrate someone's death when something like that happens, you know? And you definitely don't want to demonize either side, right? Because this shit happens on the left too, right? There was 2 politicians who were shot in Minnesota not long ago, right? It's not a left or right thing. It's a thing where there's too much intolerance of ideas. And if we can dial back the rhetoric and really try to understand each other on both sides, I know it'd be a lot easier to make progress. Definitely a lot easier than this. I see both sides using this as like leverage to get their shit across, you know? And that shit is like so foul to me. Like I see people on the right saying shit like, man, the radical left, this is why the left needs it. And I see people on the right. I mean, I just see both sides. Both sides using this as a ploy. It's like, man, at the end of the day, he was a human being, just family. But I wish there was a way we can dial back the rhetoric and really try to understand each other and find a common ground. Because the truth is, both sides, we have more in common than we think. Right. And we agree on more things than we disagree on things. Like if there was like a diagram and then when it crossed the center, it would be way bigger than what's on the outside. But we focus on the outside, you know, both liberals and conservatives, you know, want to take care of their families. They want to provide for their families. They want America to be strong. You know, it's just they want different versions of it. And if we can find common ground and build on that, then it'd be easier to make progress. But this is not the way. Killing other people is not the way. Attempted assassination of those Democratic candidates in Minnesota, that's not the way. What happened to Charlie is not the way.